People think about Galveston's history as a number of special and big events that we know about: the Great Storm, the Great Raising, the Civil War, whatever it might be. But really, Galveston is made up of people, individuals who came to Galveston, explored the island, lived here, made their fortunes here. And we like to tell that part of it so that you can really begin to understand what's behind those history. It's the people, the men and women who made Galveston what it is today. So in 1917, as the nation was entering the war, one of the considerations had been that Great Britain and France had lost a lot of their medical corps. And they were looking for the United States to replenish those men and women to help sustain the rest of the war. So we were very interested in what made Galveston, what parts of Galveston participated in World War I in 1917. So one of the individuals that comes to mind is Dr. Herbert McNeil, Herbert Lee McNeil, who had been at the University of Texas. At that time, the medical school was the only medical college in Texas, and one of the oldest, of course, west of the Mississippi. So McNeil and all the others at the medical school were very interested in entering the war because they needed medical resources in order to continue fighting. What's interesting about McNeil is he was a brilliant young man. He spoke several languages, he had spent time in Europe. So McNeil enlisted, he went to France. Within a few months though, McNeil, who had been working in Evacuation Hospital No. 2 in Baccarat, France, became very ill one day as he was doing rounds, and within 3 days, McNeil died.
So after his death, the Galveston Daily News published a letter from one of his army mates, a Major James Van de Veer. Van de Veer wrote about McNeil. When the last call came and he was in his element, going from one ward to another, it seemed as if he knew no fatigue either by day or night. Then one morning it passed around our officers' mess hall that Mac didn't feel just right. He couldn't make his rounds that day, but he expected to get up later. He was ordered to stay in bed and like a good soldier did so, but the next morning the dreaded sentence was passed upon him and the battle for life or death was on. He had saved so many others, but himself he could not save.
This wonderful, brilliant researcher whose life was lost very early in the war died not from warfare, but from actually Spanish influenza. And the Spanish flu had already spread across Europe and was in the United States in 1917 and killed more people than actually the war did.
So Mrs. McNeil was left completely alone. Herbert was an only child. Suffering his loss was great enough, but then she suffered the loss of her husband. A month after her husband died, she wrote a series of letters to the United States government about Herbert. February 17th, 1919. I am writing about my son. He did all that he could for others, and he has left a heartbroken mother alone in the world. May 6th, 1919. He was all I had in the world, and I am left completely alone now. Oh, this awful war has robbed me of all I had. May 20th, 1919. I am now alone in the world. Please help me to know that his grave is marked. So then she expresses concern in a letter that although she's told the government to leave him in France, now she's worried that he's going to be the only American left, and she doesn't want him left alone. September 18th, if all are to be brought back, I don't want his lone grave to be the only one left, as I had told them I would leave him there some time ago, since before they decided to remove them all. I am his heartbroken mother, Mrs. E. McNeil.
Within a few years, she actually had his body moved to Arlington Cemetery in Virginia, and that's where his body is today, as one of the early casualties of the medical corps in World War I in Baccarat, France.